2. So welcome to our third Lunch and Learn. It's exciting that we have done 3 so far. So this one's going to be on computational thinking and coding. If this is your first Lunch and Learn, welcome. If it's not, glad to have you back. Please be watching for those emails from Tim on upcoming Lunch and Learn opportunities. And I'm going to put again in the chat all of the different links for some resources. The first one is a computational thinking and coding scaffold, self-directed learning place that I set up for my staff, but I think it's relevant for all of you. There's a newsletter in there, the resource report that I put out 2 times a month. And then the last one's just the Lunch and Learn information, because if you miss some of our past Lunch and Learns, they are recorded, they're put in there, all the resources are there as well. One new thing to the Lunch and Learn is we are able to do contact hours. So you will see on each of the pages for the Lunch and Learn and on the main page that you can click and fill in your name, and you will be able to get a certificate saying that you attended the Lunch and Learn, and you'll get an hour for that. And you can actually go back in time if you've done some of the previous ones and don't have contact hours for that. One more thing I want to mention is if you signed up for the virtual student conference, which I know Pembroke has, great job, awesome, but we only have about 4 schools who have done that. So I have advocated for a second entry point to try to get that wealth of resources to you. So be looking for more information on another way that you can be part of the virtual conference and have those resources and whatnot. That will be coming soon. Tim and I will be talking about how to best get that information to you next week. So joining me today is Yuhong and AJ. They are 2 ambassadors. Yuhong is a 2nd-year ambassador. AJ is a 1st-year ambassador with me, and they are here to talk about computational thinking and coding. So without further ado, here they are. I will be checking the chat, by the way.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation on computational thinking. AJ, you're mute.
There we go. Sorry, everybody. I'm AJ Rogg. As Donna said, I'm a 1st-year ambassador with the MLTI program. And before that, I've been teaching for about 28 years. And the last 18 years of that, I've been at Lyman Moore Middle School in Portland, Maine.
Hi, I'm Yu Hong Sun. I'm a 2nd-year ambassador. Prior to that, I was a computer science teacher and a Chinese language teacher at Noble High School for 18 years. Today, AJ and I will talk about computational thinking and its integration into different subject areas. And today's topics. First, what is computational thinking? Second, computational thinking fundamentals. Third, benefits of computational thinking in daily life. Then, how to integrate computational thinking into curriculum. We'll also provide some examples of computational thinking in different subject areas. So, what is computational thinking? According to Carnegie Mellon Center, computational thinking is a way of solving problems, designing systems, and understanding human behavior that draws on concepts fundamental to computer science. Computational thinking is like learning how to think in the way computers do, but it's also about using certain skills and ways of thinking to solve all kinds of problems, not just the computer-related ones. Computational thinking was first brought up by Jeanette Wynn in 2006. According to her, Computational thinking is a fundamental skill for everyone, not just for computer scientists. It is like reading, writing, and math, and she thinks every child should have computational thinking skills. So there are 4 core fundamentals of computational thinking: decomposition, abstraction, pattern recognition, and algorithm. Decomposition means breaking down a complex problem into smaller parts that are more manageable and easier to understand, which then can be examined and solved individually. Abstraction means simplifying a problem by filtering out the characteristics that are irrelevant in order to concentrate on those that matter. Pattern recognition means looking for similarities across sets of problems or similarities within the problem itself. Algorithm is a set of well-defined instructions to solve a particular problem. So now I'm going to demonstrate how computational thinking has been applied to our daily life, not just computer science. Let's take a look at a decomposition, how decomposition can be applied to cooking a spaghetti dinner. Imagine you want to cook a spaghetti dinner. That sounds a little overwhelming, but let's break it down into different tasks, such as gather ingredients, prepare ingredients, cook the meal, assemble the dish, set the table and serve, and then clean up after the meal. So you see, by breaking down the task of cooking a meal into these smaller steps, it is not overwhelming anymore. Each step is like a mini task, and it is easier to handle. This is what decomposition in computational thinking is all about: breaking down a big problem into smaller and more manageable parts. Abstraction. Abstraction is one of the most important processes in computer science. It involves simplifying complex things by focusing on the most important aspects while ignoring the less irrelevant details. See beyond the details. Let's see how abstraction can be applied by using the example of a map. First, simplification. We know a map simplifies the real world. If you look at a map of a city, it doesn't show every single building or street sign. Map always highlights important features. On the map, it only shows major roads, train stations, and landmarks. Map also uses symbols and colors to represent different things. For example, blue line might represent a river. A red line might represent a major highway. So the next is generalization. So a map might show a forest as a green patch. It generalizes the forest into one simple area of green color. So therefore, abstraction is about taking something complex and focusing on the key information you need while ignoring the less important details. So let's see how pattern recognition applies in different situations. In nature, you might notice patterns in the way leaves are arranged on the branch, or the way certain birds always fly in V shape. Sometimes when sky is filled with dark, heavy clouds, and you know it might rain later in the day. And also in our daily life, you know that red traffic light means stop, green means go. And also in language, like in English, ing means doing something like walking, singing, and jumping. So pattern recognition can help us identify solutions by recognizing similarities in different situations. It also helps us understand and categorize information, making it easier to remember and apply knowledge. And it also makes us make predictions about outcomes by recognizing patterns. So the example I mentioned about the sky, when you see heavy and dark cloud, and you can predict it might rain later the day.
You hung?
Yeah, okay.
Algorithm?
Oh, okay. So, all right, okay, algorithm. So algorithm is a set of instructions to perform a specific task or solve a particular problem. These instructions must be clear and precise. Let's take a look at the video by David J. Mellon. David is a professor and dean of computer science in Harvard. He explains how algorithm is about to 5 people at different levels, from a child in elementary school to a data scientist. Here is a video of how he explains what algorithm is to a child.
Luxury is where you are. Haagen-Dazs caramel cone. That's Dazs. Luxury is where you are. Haagen-Dazs caramel cone.
Pretty much every
Luxury is where you are. Haagen-Dazs caramel cone. That's Dazs.
Hopefully not.
Because your fingers can only do that. Like, you have to use your finger to delete all of the stuff.
Exactly.
Left, right.
Have you heard of an algorithm before?
Yes. Algorithm is a list of instructions to tell people what to do, or like a robot what to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's just step-by-step instructions for doing something, for solving a problem, for instance.
So like if you have a bedtime routine, then you say, I get dressed, I brush my teeth, I read a little story, and then I go to bed.
All right. Well, how about another algorithm? Like, what do you tend to eat for lunch? Any types of sandwiches you like?
I eat peanut butter.
And let me get some supplies from the cupboard here. So should we make an algorithm together?
Yeah.
Why don't we do it this way? Why don't we pretend like I'm a computer, or maybe I'm a robot, so I only understand your instructions, and so I want you to feed me, no pun intended, an algorithm. So step-by-step instructions for solving this problem. But remember, algorithms, you have to be precise. You have to give
the right instructions.
The right instructions. Just do it for me. So step 1 was what?
Open the bag.
Okay, opening the bag of bread.
Stop.
Now
grab the bread and put it on the plate.
Grab the bread and put it on the plate.
Take all of the bread back and put it back in there.
So that's like an undo command. Little Control Z. Okay.
Take one bread and put it on the plate.
Okay.
Take the lid off the peanut butter.
Okay, take the lid off the peanut butter.
Put the lid down.
Okay.
Take the knife.
Take the knife.
Put the blade inside the peanut butter and spread the peanut butter on the bread.
I'm gonna take out some peanut butter and I'm gonna spread the peanut butter on the bread.
I put a lot of peanut butter on because I love peanut butter.
Oh, apparently, I thought I was messing with you here, but I think you're
it's fine,
apparently happy with this.
Put the knife down, and then grab one bread and put it on top of the second bread, sideways.
Sideways.
Like, put it flat on.
Oh, flat ways. Okay.
And now, done. You're done with your sandwich.
Should we take a delicious bite?
Yep, let's take a bite.
Okay, here we go. what would be the next step be here?
Clean all
Yeah,
this mess up.
Clean all this mess up, right. We made an algorithm, step-by-step instructions for solving some problem. And if you think about now how we made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, sometimes we were imprecise. You didn't give me quite enough information to do the algorithm correctly, and that's why I took out so much bread. Precision, being very, very correct with your instructions is so important in the real world because, for instance, when you're using the World Wide Web and you're searching for something on Google or Bing,
you want to do the right thing.
Exactly.
So like if you type in just Google, then you won't find the answer to your question.
Pretty much everything we do in life is an algorithm, even if we don't use that fancy word to describe it, because you and I are sort of following instructions, either that we came up with ourselves or maybe our parents told us how to do these things. And so those are just algorithms. But when you start using algorithms in computers, that's when you start writing code.
So if you have a time, you can watch the whole video. David explains how algorithm is created to 5 people. And he explained how algorithm is created for making a sandwich to an elementary school student, and how algorithm is created for binary search for a person on a phone book to a high school student. And in this video, he also explains how algorithm is created for a bubble sort, for sorting numbers to a graduate student. And he also explains how algorithm is created for doing things more efficiently to a graduate student, and also how algorithm is created for finding best model of a data set to a data scientist. So this video is very educational and entertaining. So if you have a time, I strongly suggest you take a look so you can understand what algorithm is all about in computational thinking.
All right, thank you, Young. That was awesome. So I apologize for the Haagen-Dazs commercial. We are not partnered with them, but maybe we should. So again, I apologize for that. So what I'd like to talk about is we really want to convey to you that in this presentation that computational thinking is really an effective way of teaching problem-solving skills, and that that will help students throughout their life in school going forward. So computational thinking was, at the beginning developed with an obvious technology lens. The idea of wanting to help students with how they may, leverage technology to aid in problem solving. And this, we know is really important because with the increasing digital world that our kids are living in and that will go on to work in, they need to understand how to, almost think like a computer, because most of the jobs that they're going to do, there's going to be some sort of technology piece to it. And they're probably going to have to be inputting or using technology to produce results. So being able to break down problems like a computer for a computer is a huge benefit for them going forward. But with computational thinking, as we look through these, we do see that it has many other pieces and components to it. So we've kind of listed out 6 here that we feel that, don't necessarily have to be related to technology specifically. And we talk about improved problem-solving skills. The idea of being really organized and deliberate with what the students are trying to solve, looking at a problem, understanding that they need to be flexible as they collect their information, and that idea of reevaluating every time something doesn't go right, or if they get a curveball and they've got to go right, they go right, they go left, they ask new questions. The idea of a growth mindset, the idea of thinking critically and collaboratively in an environment and gaining that ability to listen to others. We struggle to teach our kids to be really good listeners, and the idea of being able to take an idea from another student or listen to that idea and run with it and not have this kind of like self-centered attitude. And the idea of embracing ambiguity and seeing challenges as opportunities. So, it's this idea of vocabulary and really embracing these words, and then having these words and skills be talked about throughout all of their education, all of their classes that they're taking. The idea of embracing the unknown with curiosity and confidence. We know that that's not an easy skill. Elementary, middle school is a real struggle. We know that with that. But as they learn to, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, try again, and encourage them to do that, that confidence and that curiosity will just blossom. And the idea of asking bold questions, we don't want them to shy away from asking the tough questions. The idea of innovation, we have this whole partnership that we work with, this innovation project that we're working with is just, we want kids to be innovative. They need to ask big questions in order to push us forward, to push themselves forward. They are the future for us, and we need them to be, taking risks with those questions that they ask. And then not only ask the questions, but really be persistent in looking for the solution to their questions, not just asking them, but take it a step further. Let's try to solve those questions. And then the idea of increased creativity. We want them to be creative. We want them to again, that thinking outside the box, but think in creative ways, a way that they don't normally try something. Let's try this a different way, listen to others and try it their way. So that idea of creativity and letting kids just run with an activity, run with a solution or a question is huge. And then, last but not least, we're going to have, lifelong learners. If they've got that curiosity, they've got the confidence, they're going to feel empowered to go forward into high school, into college, or into their workplace and ask those questions, be curious, test, and, push the envelope a little bit for innovation. So that's what we're really hoping to see, that these skills can really provide for us. So how do we improve computational skills? So the idea of improving them is we really need to train ourselves to, think in a balanced way. We need to be able to think around a problem, all the way around a problem. Think of all the different entry points of a solution. If it's like you're playing a video game, you don't want to, put all your stuff into one resource. You want to have as many resources as possible. So that's, resources are people, it's information, where you're getting your information from. Teaching kids that the more data they have, the better chance of a solution, or at least a direction, is going to be exponential. And then the idea of a situational awareness, just paying attention to what's really going on when they try a solution, what's happening. Look for those pieces, decompose what's happening, abstract out the ideas that aren't working, and really just kind of focus on, where do I want to be? What am I trying to solve? And then to develop to be effective and efficiently, thinking. So break down big problems into smaller parts. I think we talked a lot about our kids go home to do homework. We want them to not necessarily sit down for 3 hours and do their homework, break it up into manageable pieces so that they can feel confident about each and every piece. And then, we are looking for patterns. We want kids to look for patterns to see how they can work more efficiently. And if we can get these, students to really, figure out a solution for a certain type of problem, they're going to start seeing patterns where that problem comes up and they've already have a solution for it. So if they can recognize that pattern, they can also recognize that they've already solved that problem. So hopefully that makes it a lot more efficient for them as well. And then that last piece is, active listening. We talked about that. Being an active listener is not a skill that everybody possesses. It's a skill that some kids have to learn. The idea of actually listening, looking, repeating, asking questions directly to what the person that was talking to them said, really trying to understand what the person is trying to convey and being able to repeat that back to them. I mean, these are skills that, we need to teach our kids, need to teach our students. If they don't have that skill, they're not really going to be able to work in a collaborative environment very well. And I think that that's where things are going in this world, especially around computers. You're getting a lot of people to work together on a single project, and you've got to have that ability to understand what someone is actually talking to you about. So what I'd like to do next is give you a little bit of time to think about where computational thinking skills might take place in your classroom. So I don't know where everybody teaches here, and I guess I just want you to take a few moments, and then we'll see if anybody wants to share out with us. What concept from computational thinking do you think fits in a unit that you're working on, an activity you're working in or planning on doing? So we have the idea of decomposition, abstraction, pattern recognition, or algorithm. So just take a couple moments, and then if somebody would like to share what they're working on and where one of these pieces might fit into that unit or that activity.
If you want to submit something to the chat too, I can read it out, or you can unmute and share where you think one of these might fit.
And I'm stopping a share so I can see people. I couldn't see people before. Does anybody have anything right off the bat that they can feel like where they might see the idea of breaking things down, the idea of abstraction and taking things away, patterns, algorithms?
I'll share briefly for me, because this computational thinking, I'm a first-year ambassador. I was teaching up until June. This is a different way of looking at your classroom. So I came from Princeton. I was a math teacher, and the idea of algorithm being last is huge for me. And so figuring out math pieces and getting to an algorithm, I think, involves all of those steps. And when I step back into the classroom after my ambassadorship, I want my classroom to model that kind of format where they arrive at conclusions. They're not given rules. So that's the example from what I plan to take back to the classroom.
And, in the next few slides, I'm going to go through some, different types of, curriculum and just give you some ideas of where it might fit. And I guess my big thing going forward with computational thinking is I really think it's a vocabulary piece, a common vocabulary that kids can really grasp onto and understand when they go to do some problem solving or pretty much any activity that we can think of. They need to, have that idea of breaking it down into what do I need to do, what order, what don't I need to understand or need in this activity, and then trying to put it all together in some sort of algorithm. So I'll move ahead. I'll share my screen again. And so if we look at an example from an ELA class, one example that I had, and if you think of another one and you want to talk about it or put it in the chat, great, is this idea of like when you're reading books, or if you read a couple books on the same topic and you want to have a character connection between two characters, the students will need to abstract information from the text and look for patterns in the character's behavior, to be able to make that comparison and have that connection. So that's somewhere where ELA classes can bring in this vocabulary and this idea of computational thinking.
AJ, can you present so that's bigger in Canva?
Is it not bigger?
Please? I see your presentation notes and stuff.
Oh, I thought I picked the other one. Try it again. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for telling me. So math to me is like a no-brainer for this one. Math and computational thinking kind of went hand in hand anyway. So the idea of I use is word problems, using abstraction to take away the unneeded items. We talk to kids when they take standardized tests, look for the stuff you don't need to know in order to solve this. Make the problem simpler. So take out all that unwanted information and then start putting it into your algorithm to come up with a solution. So just one way that computational thinking can be that looks into a math class. We have, science class. If we're talking about experiments, we have the idea of if you're going to run an experiment, most experiments, you're looking for this idea of patterns, for repetition, for data that's going to come out the same to prove a hypothesis. So the huge piece for computational thinking for science for me is patterns. Obviously, there is the decomposition piece as well, and abstraction. It just seems like in life, you're always trying to, break things down into pieces so that I know that I get it finished correctly. You want to abstract all the white noise and all the stuff that you don't need in your life. So, I mean, it's kind of like a life skill almost, that idea of abstraction, just to function. So we always want to get rid of the stuff that we don't need. It's just it makes things a lot easier going forward when we go to solve our problems. And then the idea of social studies I came up with was, debating and persuasive writing. You want to, break down your argument to get to the exact points that you want to try to win your debate with somebody. You also want to abstract the information and prioritize your information that you're grabbing in order to persuade for whatever topic you're trying to persuade somebody on. But that idea of persuasive writing is looking for the quick details, because you don't want to overdo it. You just want to find the fine details that will make people really kind of grab onto your information and be like, yeah, I agree with that. And PE is huge with decomposition. PE teachers are always breaking down skills into smaller pieces. Those smaller pieces, like throwing, you want to talk about how you hold the ball, how you release the ball, how you bring your hand back. You talk about dribbling, hitting, pretty much any activity that is, that you're moving your body, or kids are having to learn how to move their body. And maybe the first time they've ever done an activity, we've got to break those pieces down so they really have a good understanding of all the components that go into that activity. So that kind of concludes the piece about computational thinking. We also wanted to bring in a little bit about how do we bring in some coding into your classes. So for me, the easiest way that I've found to do this, and I usually, being a computer science teacher in the middle school, I get, some kids who have done a lot of coding and some kids who've done zero coding. So Google CS First is a huge tool for me, because it is a video-based program that uses Scratch. So I love Scratch. I end up teaching a lot of stuff in Scratch, but this is where I go first to really teach all the little pieces of coding in Scratch. And the nice thing about this is you need almost zero understanding of Scratch or zero understanding of coding in order to, get into Google CS First. The videos are going to take the kids pretty much step by step. You're mostly the facilitator. It does come with lesson plans. It does come with materials. It comes with examples. It has all of that information at your fingertips. You can create classes in Google CS First so that when kids are finishing assignments that you give them, they can actually, you can see them right inside of your teacher portal, and you can do your evaluations right there. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go through and show you CS first. If you have your computer and want to shrink this screen and follow along with me, that would be great. I'm just going to kind of give you hopefully about a 10 to 15 minute, run through of CS first as a kind of a first step into coding. So to get there, you can literally just write Google or CS first into your address window, and it should send you here. To sign in to Google CS first, it is just using your Gmail if you want. Today, you don't necessarily have to sign in order to go through and see this activity. By signing in, you do get the ability to save. You do get the ability to create a teacher account. You get the ability to assign activities to your students. So once they join your class, they will be given an assignment, and they will be able to go there and click on their little dashboard and continue working and not have to go find it each time. So I'm going to sign in real quick so you can kind of see that piece.
If I can jump in real quick, AJ,
Yeah.
if your administrators for your tech pieces have blocked some pieces of this, because mine did, because the students who had accounts were like less than 18, blocked it as far as them making accounts. I used a home account just to get access, and then you create a class and they just have to put the class code in. But just in case you need that backdoor, that's how I had to do it from my district.
Yeah, and if you have questions, sounds like Donna's done it. You can reach out to Donna, myself. I know Chris is going to be joining here and talking about maybe a little bit more about CS first, or maybe other things as well. But reach out to us, and I'm happy to run you through. Like I said, this is my beginning part of my year. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've been teaching. So what we're looking at right now is the teacher page. I have created my classes. These are the units that I've assigned to those classes. Here's the class code. You can go to projects. Projects show you, this is where you would see all of your students' projects. So you'd see their name. You could click on the project, watch, make sure all the components have been met, and then you can assess as needed. So it's kind of a nice way to kind of keep it in-house, and you're not having to go visit kids' computers necessarily to assess. You can just kind of do that at home on your own as needed. So I'm going to move up to this top banner up here, and I'm going to go to where it says resources first. I'm going to kind of move backwards. So inside resources, you have some distance learning, teaching materials, and live workshops. So as I scroll down, this is learning how to teach CS first. So this is maybe a spot if you're really new to coding and you really want to bring it in, but you want to make sure you have a little bit of knowledge before you introduce it to your students. These are some videos that you can watch and kind of learn how to do what is CS first, how to create a teacher account, connecting students, what it looks like for a student using Scratch online community. So these are just some quick videos that you can watch to get a little bit of information. There's also some printable materials, starter guides, certificates, class rosters, which is kind of cool as well. So that's kind of our material piece, which is kind of cool, our resources that are available to you. We have Hour of Code. So there's a few activities that you will see in Hour of Code, so they kind of have a direct link to that. And then the big piece here is obviously the curriculum. So these are, obviously hands-on lessons. They're all video-based. So as we scroll down, this very first one, Welcome to CS First, and this is where I would start for most people. This is, as it says here, it says it's text-based. So, they're doing a little bit of reading. It's introductory, so that kind of gives you the level that it's at. It tells you you have 4 lessons in here and an approximate 4 to 6 hours. So again, this may or may not take 4 to 6 hours depending on your kids' abilities or how much of it you really want to do. you also have this ability to add it to your class. So this is where you get to add it to a class that you've created for your students. It's a quick button just to do that. We're going to come back to this one. This is kind of the one I'm going to kind of do a little dive into, but I thought before I got into that, I'd show you that down here we do have some subject specific activities. And again, they give you a little bit of information about them, that they're, what level they're at, how many lessons, and approximately how long they will take. And so we have a few that deal with supports ELA. We come down here, we see that we have multi-day units. Again, storytelling, sound and music. So then we're into our music classes, fashion and design, friends, art. So we're into the art piece. And then the ones that kids love the most are the game design and the sports ones. And again, these are those longer activities. If you've got time in your curriculum to do that, I know that's probably not true, but it is, they are available, or at least places for kids to go if they've finished work or want to, have some free time to work on some stuff. This is definitely something you could assign them and give them access to. So if you're following along, or if you're just watching, I'm just going to kind of go through this CS first welcome activity. So we're just going to click where it says view. So when we get here, we see this little overview. It gives you a quick little, synopsis of what's going to happen. We have the lessons, we have examples. This is that piece I was telling you about. We can actually show kids what they'll be designing, or you get to kind of watch and see what the kids will be designing before you really get into it. So you can go in here and, check out what an interactive scene is going to look like. So if we look here, we see that when the kids put their click on different characters, they do different activities or different things. So we see that that's happening. You also have the idea of materials, and this is where they give you the lesson plan, and they will list out the lesson plans. This is nice. It gives you quick access down. But if you look at these, they give you, your materials that you need. They basically tell you what you can say if you choose to walk them through step by step. You have your introductions, put your code in order, assessments, if that's available. And then they do give this idea of opportunities for content integration. And again, that's kind of what we talked about today, was the idea of integrating it into different classes. So here they give you some ideas of how you can integrate this specific activity into language arts and math. If we scroll down to interactive scenes, which is the second lesson, again, we get the overview, the warm-up, a lot of the vocabulary you're going to use, an idea of an assessment if you choose to use it as an assessment. And down here, this activity, they give you some ideas of how to bring it into social studies, language arts, and science. So a lot of great tools and material for teachers so that you are not feeling like you have to know this program perfectly, or that you have to have knowledge of coding necessarily. This does give you all that background knowledge and understanding so that you can hopefully feel confident before you get into teaching it with your students. So if we go into the actual lesson itself, I'll just show you a little bit about what the lesson looks like. And then you can ask questions. So this is kind of what you're going to notice. You're going to see that you've come into Scratch. If you've been to Scratch before. So this is, again, based in the Scratch program from MIT, and it will look exactly the same if and when you decide or take your kids to the Scratch website itself. So you have this start lesson. You basically have these introduction activities that the kids will read, and there are videos that will pop up, and you can watch the video to see how things work. So if we watch this quick little video.
Scratch for CS First is made of 4 main areas: the block palette, the code area, the stage, and the sprite pane. Sprite is another word for character or object. In Scratch, you will program sprites to move around on the stage. The block palette is where you'll find all the different blocks you can use to code your project. Each block can make sprites do different things like move, make sounds, or interact with each other. The blocks are organized into different categories and color-coded to help you understand what they do. To add a block to your project, drag it from the block palette into the code area. Clicking a block in the code area will run that code. When you run code, you'll see what it is doing to each sprite on the stage. When you connect blocks together, they will run in order from top to bottom. Each sprite has its own code area.
So you get the idea of it's a very informative video. It's enough for the kids to get an idea. And then this lesson kind of has the kids slowly putting pieces together. It gives them 3 blocks of code to start with. They're going to eventually have to rearrange those blocks of code. It will talk them through, or not talk them through, but actually, when I say that, it will talk them through because it does have a play button so that it will read the instructions to the kids. So if there are any kids who struggle with reading, need that auditory piece for them, it will read the directions to them. CS First also does have Spanish, and I know we have lots of other languages besides just Spanish. I know my school has 32 languages, but that doesn't help everybody, but at least it's one other language to listen to it in if you need that. And again, you can minimize and expand. So it basically just takes you through the whole process of this activity until they've completed the activity. So I find it as a really great way to introduce coding to kids. They get to watch a video, they get to bring in the code that's on the video, put it together like they did in the video. They can go back to the video and work and go back and work. And if they need to watch the video again, they can. Your job as the teacher is becoming, like I said, more of a facilitator and helping kids maybe navigate between the videos and the work page. But I find it's usually where I have teachers who are new get started, and they seem to feel like it's a pretty nice place to get started. And a lot of times the teachers will be doing the activities right with the students. And that's kind of a fun way for the teachers to really get an idea of coding itself. So that is my quick introduction to Google CS First. I guess we'll take some time for questions. I'm going to kind of take this sharing off so I can see people. I don't know if anybody would like to, if they have questions about what we've talked about or CS First itself or